Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Jasmine and this is Jasmine's Gems, and I'm just a girl, not a guru, but today we're going to talk about emotions. So a lot of people, they don't know how to feel and process their emotions, and I've been someone who's always been very introspective, and I was the quiet kid, so I learned how to observe, I learned how to feel. So I know how to move through certain emotions. So the key with working with emotions is definitely we have to be very mindful of feeling them first and then taking action on them. But I think where a lot of people mess up is the action part or even the feeling part. Sometimes people don't let themselves feel. They like to cope. They like to shove stuff down. And that's where things can get a little messy. And if they do let themselves feel what they need to feel, sometimes they don't take action properly. So this could be like lashing out. This could be, again, different ways to cope. For example, if you're feeling very depressed, and then the negative action could be, drinking your problems away or using substances or doing things that are not great coping skills. So today I'm going to talk about a couple of different emotions and how to work through them. So the first emotion we'll discuss is anger. So anger, I love anger. It's such a misunderstood emotion. And even for myself, I struggled with how to utilize it properly in the beginning. But once I realized why anger is necessary and why we feel anger, it kind of transformed my view towards it. So in my experience, anger is an emotion that we feel when we feel very mistreated. It's kind of like a flag, like something's not right. I didn't like that. Maybe a boundary was crossed. Maybe you were mistreated. Maybe there's some form of injustice. And that's where anger can come from. So, sometimes when we feel angry, we feel very hot. Like we want to take a lot of action. Sometimes, people want to lash out physically and be more aggressive. This can also be screaming, yelling. There are different ways that anger can be shown and displayed. And the ways I listed are very negative reactions. Again, to me, anger feels very hot, like I need to do something about this, because no one likes to feel mistreated. No one likes to feel wrong. It's almost your body's way of saying, how dare you? Like, how dare you treat me like that? You must have lost your mind. So when we feel that way, how do we act in a more positive manner? Like I said, the key to coping with a lot of emotions is taking action. So once we've identified we're feeling mistreated, we feel like a boundary was crossed, then we can take the next steps. So let's say you feel like in a relationship you were betrayed, or a boundary was crossed, or someone did something to you that was wrong. So the proper action you can take is 1, change your situation, change your circumstances, change your environment. If this is someone who, let's say someone cheated on you, of course you want to react emotionally and be very reactive. I would too. Trust me, I've been there. So it's like, yeah, you want to punch this person, but you shouldn't. So instead, you need to remove yourself from the situation. That's your body's way of saying, I didn't deserve to be cheated on, and you're right, you didn't. So the step you should take is to remove yourself from that situation, from that relationship. Put yourself somewhere else where you're appreciated. Another example is, say you're at work and you feel very unappreciated, very used, very taken advantage of, not seen. And you start to feel very angry towards your boss or your company, and you're like, everything I do for this company and it's not enough. So a proper action first, it's great that you identified that feeling of anger. You feel very disrespected. You feel very unheard. And it's not fun. Of course it's not. But that's going to trigger you and kind of light that fire under your butt. Like, this isn't okay. This isn't okay to accept. This isn't okay to experience. I deserve better. And that's the best part of anger. Anger makes you realize, like, this disrespect is not for me. This disrespect is not good. I deserve more. And that's why I love anger. Because anger is going to light that fire under your butt. Anger is going to go and get you a new job where you're appreciated, where you're valued, where you're paid for what you're doing, where you're not underpaid. Anger is going to, it's that fire. That's why I said, like, it gets things going, it gets things moving. And that's why anger is so misunderstood and so unappreciated. And again, using anger correctly and in a positive way can breed amazing results. So another emotion where people don't know how to properly use it that I've noticed, jealousy. So I'm not someone who really gets jealous, but of course, you know, we're human. I've had moments of jealousy when I was younger. And again, these type of emotions are meant to trigger us, to make us kind of think like, why do I feel this way? What can I do when I do feel this way? Because that jealousy, it'll get you in your gut like, ugh, why does this person have this and I don't? And it comes from a place of lack. Jealousy makes you feel like there isn't enough abundance in the world. Jealousy makes you realize this is something I want and I don't have it. So again, there are negative ways to react to jealousy. There are people who get jealous and they try to undermine other people and try to belittle them to kind of bring them down, quote unquote. But when used correctly, we can use jealousy as motivation, just like anger, but it's a little different. So for me personally, anger is more of that, like that fire, like I need to get things done now. Like it's that initiator. But jealousy can be kind of that realization like, okay, this is something that I want. And now I can make the conscious decision and effort to work for it or to get it. It just means you need to align. That's all that means. It can mean you're not in the right situation that you're supposed to be in. For instance, if you're in a relationship where your partner just doesn't do anything for you at all, like there's no romance, there's no love, there's no effort, and then you see your friend being spoiled and being loved on and being treated correctly, and then you start to get jealous of your friend, that could just mean that you obviously want that. You don't necessarily want their relationship, but you want love. You want to be appreciated. You want to be valued. And that's okay. That's so human. I love that you're understanding that. However, what you shouldn't do is you shouldn't try to ruin your friend's relationship, give them bad relationship advice, throw shade at them, or do anything like in that nature. But what you can do is you can express to your partner, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And if your partner doesn't want to change or, hear you or give you that, find a new partner who will. There's no need to feel jealous over someone else's life, especially when we're on our own paths. Just identify what you want out of life and work for it. Work towards it. The last emotion we're going to talk about is the feeling of shame. So I've noticed a lot of people feel shame. This could be for present situations, but a lot of times it's a lot of past mistakes. They feel a lot of shame towards things that they've done or didn't do. They could feel shame for ignoring their intuition. They could feel ashamed for mistreating people. I know for me, I felt a lot of shame after my last relationship ended. I talked a little bit about this on a YouTube short. I felt a lot of shame because I'm someone who really values being a good partner. And it felt like I had failed as a partner because the relationship had ended. And once I really sat with those feelings, I was like, I shouldn't feel ashamed because, one, relationships, sometimes they just end. They're here to help us grow. Some people are here for a season, a reason, and not a lifetime, and that's okay. There's nothing that I could have done to change that situation. I gave it my all, but I think I felt ashamed because it kind of felt like an attack on my character. Like I said, I'm someone who values being a good partner, so to kind of give it my all and it not work out, it made me feel like I didn't do enough. So shame kind of triggered that feeling of, well, why don't I feel good enough? Why don't I feel worthy of love now? And once I really sat with my feelings, I realized it was like a lot of past stuff that I felt, just like things that I've learned growing up. And I was able to reframe my mind. So the action that I took to no longer feel ashamed, obviously I did inward work, like journaling, just thinking things through. But I also realized with that, it was a lot of perfectionism. So perfectionism is something that I really struggle with, and I'm still working on sometimes. It still comes up. But I feel like I have to do everything perfect to feel lovable. So how I started working on that feeling of shame was to be imperfect actively. So I would post TikTok videos. That's how I started to post my TikTok videos. I started like a perfectionism series. I wouldn't be as put together, I got my hair done today, but I'd be coming home from work. My hair would be a little messy. I would let myself be seen being imperfect, quote unquote. And I also started letting myself be seen emotionally and vulnerably. And the more I did that, the less I felt ashamed. So opening up on YouTube, opening up on TikTok about my past relationship, it kind of lessened the value or the importance of that shame. Another example of, a way someone might feel ashamed is if they made a mistake. So the example I gave in my TikTok and YouTube short was cheating. A lot of people feel ashamed for cheating. The example I gave was if someone cheated and they feel ashamed, they should look inward and they should ask themselves, why did they cheat? What caused them to cheat? Was it lack of communication skills? Was it they had very lustful energy and they don't know how to control their lust? Once they find the root issue, they can take actions to not repeat those same mistakes so they cannot cheat in the future. They can say, maybe next time, since I didn't have communication skills and I've worked on that now, next time if I'm unhappy in a relationship, I can bring that up to my partner instead of just kind of sweeping it under the rug and then looking for someone else externally. If it's lust, how can I control my lust? How can I get my mind right so that I'm not acting on lustful thoughts and betraying my partner? A lot of our quote unquote negative emotions, which I don't think there are negative emotions. I think emotions are very neutral. But a lot of our quote unquote negative emotions, they need actions. That's the way to work through them. We need to feel, interpret, act. And that's how we can process these emotions. But thank you for listening. Like I said, I'm just a girl, not a guru. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day.